Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Katie Romagnolo, and today we are talking about launching and growing your business with moon phases, my specialty and something I am so incredibly passionate about. But there's so many things that I wish that I knew earlier that I found out the hard way. And today I want to share with you the 5 things that I wish I knew sooner about moon phases that helped me grow a six-figure business. So if you are tuning in live, interact with me. Let me know in the comments. And if you are liking this video and this information for someone that is maybe in your life or that you're working with as well, go ahead and send it to them. Like this video, it helps it find more viewers like you that can benefit from this content. So we're going to jump right in. This is live and unscripted. So we are answering the listener questions. And I absolutely love this question that came through from Janelle this week because Janelle is actually an amazing business owner. She has a lot of things going on and she is a writer. She has some speaking opportunities coming forward. There's some online programs and kind of dabbling in a whole lot of different amazing things. But just getting into how are the phases of the moon actually going to help structure and provide some logical assistance while also boosting up that ability to manifest and bring in some magic and miracles into the mix. So, I've used this framework to launch several best selling books. My very first book, I had no idea what I was doing from a writing perspective. Quite honestly, at that time in my life, I hadn't even read a book for many, many years. I was just coming through a major transition where it was really difficult, and I didn't actually expect to be a best selling author. It wasn't what I started writing for. I was writing because, as probably most of you that are authors out there, I was writing because I had a story that felt like it was inside of me. It was part of my own personal healing journey. But during that process, I had really gotten into moon phases and primarily going to full moon meditations just to try and calm my nervous system. I was struggling with social anxiety for a long period of my life before I really tapped into all of these unique techniques. And meditation was something that I knew I probably should do, but never really got a hold of because I couldn't quiet my mind enough until I found full moon meditations. This is what started me really interested in what was going on with the energy of each and every day because I knew that I was really good at hustling. So, back in my former life in business, I would just make a whole bunch of plans and hustle around the clock, never take any breaks, and do the whole thing that everybody says that you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur and like work harder and you do the thing that somebody else is not willing to do. And that's why you'll be successful and have freedom later. Well, there's a bit of a trap in that actually causes the demise of many businesses, especially women-run businesses, through burnout. There's many things that we're doing each day, not just our business, even if we are completely passionate about it. So when we don't allow time for all of those other things that take our energy, we cause all of this just incredible amount of energy leaks in our life, and that causes a lot of blocks. So let's jump into the first part of this, which is all about, well, like, what the heck is a moon phase? How long is a moon phase? And I want to throw in a little bit of new information that you probably have never heard before when it comes to these phases. Now, many of you maybe understand that manifesting on a new moon and setting intentions is a pretty common thing. You can go ahead and Google and find some basic information on that. But there's so much more to this. That's the time in which you are putting into your energy field the things that you want. But we also need to ground them into our actual existence here, get some tangible roots to what it is that you're manifesting. So technically, moon phases, they shift very often. So we have the moon position is actually moving continually and it's not at a standstill. It's this constant flow of a natural cycle. So each day you do have a shift in what the phase is. But here's something that you've never heard before. It is highly, highly impactful to follow each primary phase of the moon. There's 4 of them for an entire week. So we're going to have like a peak of energy that occurs at the new moon phase, for example, and that energy is going to follow through for about a week and it starts to shift a little bit as we move through that week. But eventually we are going to completely cross over a threshold into the first quarter. That always happens 5 to 7 days apart. So, if you are following moon phases and you are doing this formula, this is how you are going to capture the most results. Yes, technically, moon phases are shifting every single day, but I want you to focus on this as a whole for each week at a time. There's a very specific reason for this that I discovered way back when I was really struggling and trying to understand all of the pieces to what do I actually do to help my energy be in alignment to the things that I want. Because why was I not having the results that I truly, truly wanted and was working for? There was no logical reasons at a certain point in my life as to why results weren't happening. I was doing the things, I was doing a great job at it. I had a skill set and I couldn't figure it out until I understood it was all about my energy. It wasn't actually what I was doing, it was when I was doing it. When you are sitting in a particular phase and we're sitting in that for an entire week, because our human self, we need time, right? Like we're not super good at changing and shifting continually. It's just not part of this dimension. So when we have to think about, okay, I got to do this and then this and then this and then this and then all these different things every day with moon phases, it becomes overwhelming. And naturally, most people tend to not do the things. So I found myself personally as someone who was getting overwhelmed really, really easily back at that time in my life, struggling with anxiety, feeling like I wasn't good enough in my business. I found it really hard to constantly think about doing something new. So instead, I started, okay, I know that it's the new moon phase. Back then I didn't, really understand a whole lot about how it was affecting me, but I knew it was a particular phase. And I would think about what are the things that I know to feel good about this phase, the tiny bit of information that I knew, what makes me feel good this week. I'm going to really just focus on allowing for my ideas to get me in a really good, fun kind of atmosphere. I'm going to focus on the people that I love. Music is a big thing. And I naturally started to focus on those things for an entire week because this happened by accident. I didn't realize that, oh, I was kind of getting into the flow of this and it was lasting a few more days and I didn't actually change. And look, what is my moon calendar saying? Now it's a different day. I was following my own natural flow, and it turns out this works for everybody. So during that week, it allowed my physical self, my human experience here to catch up with the energy, to allow for my mental state to really ground and embody the things that I was learning. We need time. You know that age old saying, like it takes what, 21 days to actually create a habit? We need repetition. This allows for you to bring in that neurology piece of how the mind wants to operate in its natural state to actually create results. So the number one thing that I really wish that I knew earlier was that it is okay to follow your own path when something feels really good. So, yes, nobody else trains moon phases to be a week at a time. It's something that I truly discovered in my own personal journey and then realized how impactful it was to work with them in that sense. So, moving into, okay, well, how do I use this to actually grow my business? Well, when you're focusing on things for a week at a time, it actually allows you to get quite a bit done and it cuts through the noise. If you know this chunk of time, it's kind of like time blocking, but like in a super mega magical way. If you know for a certain period of time that you are focusing on one particular thing, it feels so freeing. It means that all of that mental chatter about all the things and the projects and the ideas and maybe the other stuff that has to go on in family and maybe other work that you're doing too, it allows for it to be shelved. And you sort of tuck it up on this little shelf and say, "Yeah, I'm getting to that." Quiet down when it's the most appropriate energy to do so. Because if you're actually working on things that are not supported in the energy of that particular phase, it is going to feel so hard. It is going to feel like a struggle, like you were drudging yourself through some quicksand. I know because I experienced it. Everything that I teach and I train is something I've been through and grown and done a lot of back and forth with many, many clients over the years to make sure it is a system that works. So do what works, right? It took me a long time to actually realize that because one of the things I was doing most often is focusing on too many things at once. And it left me feeling like I was not going to ever achieve any of them. So, the second thing that's really, really impactful in working with moon phases and growing your business, and what I wish I knew earlier, was that it is okay to change because you may focus on something for a certain period of time as you block out that chunk and realize I've got some adjustments that don't sit right energetically with me anymore. I really started to focus my business on this particular thing, but I'm seeing where it's leading me in a different direction. And I often see this with entrepreneurs where they've got a really amazing idea and they're keeping it super quiet. And I do believe it's important to like kind of hold safe our ideas for a while until they incubate for enough time to become magical in the world. But when you're keeping them from yourself and not allowing yourself to change, that creates resistance. That creates this kind of, not allowing the flow to happen within your own energy state. So it's okay to change. The important key here is how to change. And there's a very particular phase that's really going to support you in doing this. As human beings, we kind of find it hard to change. In our personal lives, when we've got things that are going on, we have this old saying that it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Really, all that means is that I've gotten used to a problem or a way of doing something. And even if it's not working, I know what to expect. So, therefore, I'm not going to do it any different because doing it different might be a little bit unknown. And that unknown actually feels worse or scary or more of a problem than the problem itself. So, getting good at changing is something that moon phases will really help you with and will help you grow a six-figure business. Allow your energy to lead you in the direction that needs to change. So, the phase that's going to support you in doing that is your third quarter moon. It's always going to come towards the tail end of our phases each and every month, and it's a time for adjustments. This is where you're really going to look at, okay, what is it that I'm called to change? And you're going to reflect. It's not a time for doing. This is not an action oriented phase. It's where you get to rest and retreat and pull back, but specifically with intention. So you're pulling back to discern what's working, what's not working. And once you're able to do that, then it's going to really set you up for an incredible success as we shift into a momentum phase after that. When you really get good at understanding what phase comes next, how am I focusing for a week on what certain things, it's literally like being able to tell the future of your business in an instant. You can forecast things that make you feel like you've got a crystal ball. You can always anticipate and be 10 steps ahead of where self doubt might have shown up in the past or where it is that you want to go, but you have no idea how it's going to get there. It gives so much incredible information and ease and flow into working. All of these things are really important in growing that successful business and that abundance that we are all working towards in our own way. So, next, well, something that I really really wish that I knew earlier was how to trust my gut. So, in that, it's information, right? You ever get that gut feeling where I know that there's something that I really need to do or want to do, but then we start talking ourselves out of it. The logical part of who we are starts to give information. Well, trusting your gut is far more than just, I feel like I need to do something. Because sometimes when we actually take an action, it's not because of the result that we think that we're going to get, it's because it's leading us to something else. I would have never ended up in this business as a coach and doing the work that I feel so incredibly passionate about today unless I had trusted my gut to do something that actually was really hard for me to do. And that was to step out of my comfort zone and to actually tell somebody how much I was struggling with anxiety at that point in my life. It didn't feel very good to do it. I honestly cried all through the conversation with the coach that I originally told this to. I was really ashamed of how much I had all of these just disgusting thoughts about myself of how I wasn't really capable of success in my life. And it was impeding me from creating the results that I wanted. But for a long time, I knew that I needed help and I didn't trust my gut to do it because it felt like it was going to be hard or scary or really horrible to work through, or I didn't want to do the things that somebody would say that you had to, or I didn't believe that anything was going to work. So, trusting your gut, even when it's leading you in a direction that might feel like there's a bit of resistance in doing it. During this new moon phase, when I love the new moon phase because there's so much that is untapped to talk about in that particular phase, but trusting your gut really comes into play, but at the tail end of where we're sitting in that week. Because when we hit that threshold into your first quarter moon, which is the next primary phase that you focus on, what happens is these feelings, these gut intuitions, these knowings that you start to tap into and learn how to trust, they all of a sudden flip information and your mental state starts telling you, okay, I need to take some action on this, but here's all the reasons why I'm not going to. So if you know that energy is starting to come forward at that threshold point, then you're going to recognize the thoughts that are happening. Things that feel like self sabotage, where maybe you kind of know that something is good for you to do, you had a gut intuition about it, and then you didn't do it. There's a reason for that. And working through these natural cycles really helps to tap into that information so that you can have the awareness of what's going to work the next time around. What are maybe the limiting beliefs and the, hard things that are happening mentally that are going on that are preventing us moving forward. So, when we're actually growing a business, when you are wanting to create, maybe moving your book, your very first book, into a bestseller status, the way that I used these phases and focusing on this information to actually get that bestseller status, even when technically and logically I didn't quite know what I was doing from a professional standpoint of being a very amateur writer. The way that I did this was the certain tasks that I knew that I was going to need to do, I only did them in the phase that was supported. So, for example, writing the actual content of the book. If you're out there writing a book or wanting to and you're having writer's block, then the time period which you're going to do this is right in the first 2 weeks of any of the moon phases. So that's going to be your new moon and your first quarter week. This is a great 2 week chunk of time in which you're going to actually tap into those creative ideas. You're going to feel more of that momentum based energy to be able to write. You're going to focus in that time. Now, as soon as we shift out of that time, you may feel like, okay, I don't necessarily have certain things that are calling to me to write. That's okay. Another one of the big lessons that I had learned that I wish that I knew earlier was to stop, to actually stop doing things. And it's not going to prevent you from building more momentum in your business. It's actually going to create space for more. And it's going to amplify that energy around what you're doing so that it never feels like you're drudging through that sand. So, being able to then the next 2 weeks after that, completely changing your focus and moving through a few different things that are more highly supported will actually allow your book to get done faster. So, once the writing is done, then it's all about, okay, where do I need to actually connect to get this book out there? So there's a certain time period in which you're going to want to connect with people who are going to help you publish. Maybe it's editors, and also getting into that formatting and the design, all of the logistical pieces. The time period for that is always going to be around your third quarter moon. Remember, this is adjustments. So use that time period to look at where do you need to implement things, what's working, editing, finding resources. It highly supports you in looking into the details and contracts and agreements. So you better believe when I have somebody that wants to collaborate on something, or when I've got a new project that's coming on, certain agreements that need to be made, then I am always focusing that time period on the particular third quarter week. It'll feel so much easier to get those things accomplished. And you just start moving through what is the task that I know that I'm going to need to do and charting it into the time period that's going to support you in doing it. Now, if this feels like, well, I don't know, I am very new to moon phases, I have no idea how I'm going to chart in all of the things that I'm going to do, then there's a couple of resources I can offer for you with this. Number one is grab your free moon calendar. There is a link in the description below, and you'll first off know what are those phases, when do they last for that entire week, and you'll get that format that I follow in order to launch or grow your business to know exactly what the energy is calling for you to do. Second, the big thing that tends to be why so much magic happens around the results is that I do moon mapping with everything that is either an individual project, like launching an online course or having that bestseller book. I chart things out according to specific projects. Now, this is all about uncovering every little detail that needs to go on to maybe launch that online course, all the way from creating it if you don't even have an idea yet to implementing it and filling it and ultimately selling out your online courses. There is a structure that is very fluent as well for all of you who are creatives like myself, where if you tell me that I have to sit at a desk from 9 to 5 and do a certain thing at a very structured format, I'm going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not in my DNA. So this is not regiment. This is a formula that allows you to insert where you need to move around as well and open your creativity. So what we do is actually create together this opportunity to say, this is what you're doing, and here's when you're actually going to implement all these things. So it can feel so much easier. So the people that you are promoting that online course to are going to say yes to it. Also, when you are putting that book out, when you're actually doing your launch dates, creating that team that's going to be your hype and your celebration, what is the exact formula that tends to work every single time to capture the audience, to get readers, and to fill those online courses? It doesn't have to be difficult. Use what works. Follow a formula from people that have had success and allow for yourself to infuse your own unique abilities as you go. So, moon mapping is something that I do with clients one on one. If you are curious about that, then definitely connect with me in the comments and I will send you some more details because it is very unique and specific to each and every one of you that are growing a business. So, if you were joining us today, remember that if this content was valuable to you, if there was a piece that resonated, please go ahead and like this video. It really helps us to find additional listeners that need this conversation too. And if you are growing your business, I would love to hear what type of business you are growing and how it was initially maybe a passion for you that you didn't necessarily realize could be something that is going to help you have financial abundance. I love, love, love your questions. So each and every week, I am answering direct listener questions. You can get super specific on what you want to know, or you can leave it fairly vague. It can be totally anonymous, but I do have the link in order to drop your questions into the show in order to be answered here live. The link is in the description below. Go ahead now and fill out your questions and subscribe to the show. Share this with anybody that needs to hear it today. And thank you for being here. Catch another episode every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live, and I will see you then.